Beyond the Badge is brought to you by the Edina Crime Prevention Fund.
Welcome to Beyond the Badge, a program about the inner workings of the Edina Police and Fire Departments. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sergeant Brian Hubbard. Edina residents enjoy a high quality of living, part of which is due to a low crime rate and a responsive police force. Although property crimes comprise the majority of incidents in the city, Edina hasn't been unaffected by violent offenders. This month, Edina Investigates revisits one of the few homicides in the city's history, the 1975 death of St. Louis Park schoolteacher and Edina resident Margaret Haddle.
The school had called for Margaret Haddle. She was a school teacher. She didn't show up. They asked the caretaker to check on it. When he did, he found her deceased in her own apartment, naked in the bathroom, blunt force injury to her head a couple places, and stabbed in the chest. And the door, was closed but unlocked.
An apartment building in the northwest quadrant of Edina. A tenant hears screaming in the unit above her, followed by a cry for help. She dismisses it as a domestic spat.
We do know there was no forced entry, and there was no evidence that there was any kind of break-in. And so it was either going to be somebody that knew her or someone that had access to the unit.
Investigators start to build their suspect list and interview the man that Margaret was dating at the time.
In those days, we didn't have DNA. What we had is you could take and type out the body fluids that were found within her, and you could get a blood type A, B, or O. The boyfriend had blood type A.
Unfortunately, Edina police wouldn't be able to close the case that easily.
He'd had a vasectomy, so there would be no live sperm, and at the autopsy there were live sperm.
Police quickly turn their attention to the building's caretaker.
Robert Reed, he's 22 years old, had come from Chicago. He got off work at 5 in the morning or 4:30. He was a prime suspect because of the proximity and all the time lines. Thought he could be involved.
Not only did Reed have access to the apartment, but he and his wife went on a double date with Margaret and her then boyfriend. There was a social connection.
He was calm, collect. We had him polygraphed, and he passed that with flying colors. So there, at that stage, Robert Reed was out of the picture.
But as soon as Reed was ruled out, another promising suspect would emerge.
In this particular case, the suspect left behind a Minnesota Vikings glass. The victim was a Vikings fan, but nobody that knew her had ever seen these glasses in her apartment. So as the detectives started to work on the case, they started to close in on a security guard. He happened to have another glass just like it in his car.
Leon Kirby has relatively easy access to the apartment units, and he has a criminal history.
He made a lot of comments in interviewing him that he just raised all the red flags to me and the other investigators. And I interviewed him and questioned him, and I was suspicious right up almost to the end that he was the culprit in this case.
He doesn't remember where in the building he was at the time of the murder, and he's planning on quitting his job in a couple of days.
We were getting all kinds of little circumstantial evidence that really looked bad for him.
But circumstantial evidence isn't proof. Until investigators find something more substantial, the interviews continue.
How we investigated crimes in the 70s, the 50s now changed quite a bit, and the technology's improved, but it still comes down to old-fashioned police work as just getting out and talking to people. What do you think happened? What did you see? What did you hear?
Fortunately for police, someone did hear something. 2 women that managed the apartment complex came forward with some information.
And they had contacted the chief of police something about they wanted to talk to me. And it was basically that Robert Reed had been over to their apartment visiting with them, and he was intoxicated, and he was making some odd actions and statements to them. And I read in a report, and I don't totally recall it, that he said something, "Did you do it?" And he said, "I did."
June 26, 1975, investigators head to Robert Reed's apartment with enough for a probable cause arrest, but not enough hard evidence to link him to Margaret Haddle's murder. Police need a confession, or it's over.
He was uneasy. There's 4 people there, and believe me, I wasn't as experienced as I am now after years, but he was hesitant, nervous, and I just knew it. I said, you know, Robert, would you mind talking to me alone? And we went into the back bedroom. I used scenarios, what could happen, and different ones till I saw a look on his face, and he kind of unfolded his arms like I'd hit the right scenario. I don't believe it was the true thing that happened, but it gave him an excuse, and finally he confessed little by little.
Robert Reed claimed that he was having an affair with Margaret Haddle, and that she was threatening to expose the affair to his wife. Police, however, are skeptical, and they believe another story.
At some point he preyed on her. At some point he tried to control the situation. What his excuse is later, he repeatedly lied over and over. At what point can you believe him anyways?
He slipped the key in there, came in, surprised her. You don't go over there to talk to her about something with 2 different weapons to kill her with. This was, in my opinion, nothing but a rape. Thank God that we got him. I don't think it was the first, and I know it wouldn't be the last.
Robert Reed initially entered a plea to third-degree murder, but a Hennepin County District Judge rejected the plea, stating the facts of the case supported a first- or second-degree murder charge. Reed was eventually found guilty of second-degree murder and served 12 years in prison. Residents are reminded that hot temperatures outside can quickly reach dangerous levels inside a vehicle. Under the hot sun, temperatures inside a vehicle can climb an extra 20 degrees in just 10 minutes and an extra 30 degrees in 20 minutes, leaving unattended children and pets in the car at risk for heat stroke and even death. Let's go to Captain Ryan Quinn, who is with Officer Justin Patterson, to demonstrate how Edina's Community Service and Animal Control officers use ambient and spot temperature thermometers to determine if temperatures in a vehicle are dangerous.
Thanks, Brian. We're here today at Utley Park in the city of Edina to talk about the dangers of leaving your kids and your pets in the car during these dog days of summer. Officer Patterson, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. What can you tell me about some of the dangers about leaving your kids and your pets inside your car when you're going to do some errands?
Sure. So it's a pretty common call for service for the police department in the summer. A lot of people will maybe leave their children or their animals in the vehicle while they go in and run and grab groceries or run inside to run errands really quickly. And then on a hot day like today, I mean, it's 84 degrees in Edina right now, and it may not feel that hot outside, but it's significantly hotter inside the vehicle than you would expect.
Now, how are you going to figure out how hot it is, and what tools does the police department have to figure out where the dangers are?
Sure, we've got 2 tools that we use. We have a spot temperature thermometer and an ambient temperature thermometer. I'll grab them real quick.
Great, let's take a look.
Yeah. Okay, so this right here is called a spot temperature thermometer. What this does, it has a little trigger here. And when you pull the trigger, it shines a little laser. And based on where that laser is pointing, it'll give you a reading on how hot that surface temperature is. So what we do for this, whenever we're looking at temperatures inside of a vehicle to try to see if it's at a dangerous level, we'll take a spot temperature of maybe where the child may be seated inside of a vehicle. And so we'll take a spot temperature from that seat to determine how hot the surface is that child or that animal is sitting on. So let's just take a look at how hot the seat would be. Say there was a child in the car seat here, and just determine how hot the seat would be that they'd be sitting on.
Sounds good.
So the reading I just got from the seat, 108 degrees on the black car seat in here. So extremely hot. I mean, and it's not even really that hot of a day. If it gets up into the 90s, I mean, that can just multiply up and just get considerably dangerous for any living being inside of the vehicle.
What about this one?
So,
looks like a meat thermometer.
Yeah, it does. So I'll trade you here real quick. So this is what's called an ambient temperature thermometer. And when you pull this needle out here, what this does is it'll give you a reading on how hot the air is around the needle here. So we can just do a little demo real quick, and we can determine how hot this vehicle is right now. Again, it's 84 degrees in Edina right now, so let's just take a look. Now, it usually takes a few minutes for the reading to get completely accurate, but you can see we started, it was about 83 degrees when we had it out here, and it's already going to 92 and climbing right now. So,
and that's with the window open.
That's with the window cracked too. So while you may think that the temperature is fine because the windows are cracked a little bit, without having a full airflow through the vehicle, it just gets extremely hot.
So with a lot of media attention lately about citizens finding a dog in the car or a child in the car, some people trying to break windows of cars, do you recommend that type of behavior?
We don't. We do recommend if you do see a child or an animal in the car and you're worried about the welfare of that human or that animal, to call 911. give us a call and we can come out with our tools and do the proper procedure for getting the animal out, or the human outside of the vehicle. So we're temperature's still rising right now. We're at 95. We'll cut that short here. I mean, if we left it up there, I'm sure it would jump up easily into the triple digits.
Officer Patterson, thanks for coming out today and talking to us about the dangers of leaving kids and pets inside the cars on hot summer days.
Sure, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming out to Utley Park with us today. Brian, back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Ryan. Buckling up not only saves lives, it's the law. This month's Focus In campaign focuses on the importance of wearing seatbelts and properly using child passenger restraint systems, or car seats. The use of car seats and booster seats is not always clearly understood by those transporting children. Minnesota law states that all children under age 8 must ride in a federally approved car seat or booster seat unless the child is 4 foot 9 inches or taller. It is also important to take the extra time to ensure proper installation of these seats for the safety of the child. The Edina Police Department enforces the use of seatbelts and encourages residents to read the manufacturer's installation instructions for proper use of car and booster seats. On behalf of the City of Edina's Public Safety Team, thanks for tuning in to learn a little bit more of what goes on beyond the badge. Until next time, stay safe.